What's good, my boy? Long time no video. I thought about coming back on here with some apologetics video or some artsy edited whatever with a cool idea and message and philosophy within it. I thought that'd be kind of gay. I recently got that gumption back to do this in this year coming up and going forward from that. And I don't really know exactly what I'm going to make of this channel at this present moment. I've had lots of ups and downs in terms of my ideas for it, but nonetheless, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to play with some ideas out in the open for the few that do watch this channel or did when I made content on it. If you see this, you know who you are, right? But when I started this channel, I think in one of my first videos, I was like, I'd see all these course bros and gurus and stuff doing it, and I was like, you know what? I want to do that, and I think I said, I want to milk this cow for all there is, joking, right? Not really joking. That's what I thought back then. But there's kind of, from me not deleting most of my old videos from like 3 years ago or something like that. I think I started in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 2022. It might be 2022. Who knows? But nonetheless, you can see these kind of eras I went through, almost diving into perspectives and then staying in it for a while, preaching all that I could gain from it, and then I'd shed my skin and move on to another one and do that all the way until I went from having like this occultic, pragmatic Christianity, very much against any sort of organized entities in the world in terms of religion or whatever, to becoming Catholic, the most organized entity on the face of the planet, besides some government institution, even though I'd say they're probably the biggest institution and the most long lasting in the history of everything, right? But I just find it kind of interesting being able to see that trajectory on here. And I don't really know exactly what I want to do going forward with it, right? I had a couple interesting ideas. I know the way I usually would come up with something is like, and I'd be reading something and it would like connect to something that I read and hear or heard here, and I'd be like, oh, that's a cool idea, and I'd come and I'd just rattle it off, sometimes edit it neat and whatnot, right? But, and then I hit this point, right? I got to trace this trajectory of why I stopped making videos about a year ago, or back to a year ago, why I stopped. Because I think I stopped 5 months or 6 months ago. Last year, in November, I went crazy. I stayed up for 6 days reading occult text from Jung to Steiner to certain Masonic texts to all sorts of PDFs to all of these conspiracies, everything in between. And it made me crazy. I stayed up for 6 days, sleep deprivation, and there was something interesting. It was like the most physically spiritual experience that I've ever had in my life. Like the way my psyche was playing on things and the way during it, I felt this pure, unadulterated feeling of like evil. The essence of deception. That's what the whole experience was like. And it really shook me up for all the way until February of this year. Or 2025 is 2026 now. Shook me up. But during that time, somehow I came to, through the grace of God, the beauty of Catholicism, right? And I always, when I make these videos, I think of like perception and other opinions on like, and try to like think of a rebuttal, and then I go off in a tangent. But I'm going to try to abstain from doing that and keep this concise, because this is really just a method for me to build that discipline and routine back by making this video again. Getting the rep in, basically. But in February, I got super Catholic. I'm still super Catholic, but I mean, I got that beginner catechumen just like drive and fervor to just preach this faith. And I made some videos and some live stream lecture things from no place of humility. I just came into the faith making these videos, and that was one realization I made, is like, am I really taking this, if I'm really taking this seriously, I need to just get off of all of this stuff for a while, until I feel comfortable or feel called back to it. So I went off, and from about April to about September, I was going hard. I was researching and reading and studying Latin and studying scripture for like 2 hours a day in between work and whatnot. And I was doing all this stuff and started really diving into philosophy, all the way from Aristotelian to Neoplatonic. Didn't really mess too much with the Stoics because I got a deep dose of that back in the self-improvement space. Moved on to the Scholastics, so on and so forth, and I really had a great time diving into all that stuff, right? Then September hit, and that warfare, my boy, is real. That first dose, I had a little dose, right, in April, but by the grace of God, I kind of made it through that, just like I made it through this psychosis. It almost like harkens to me that old poem. There's like an old poem that like evangelical people, boomers and stuff, have in their houses. I've seen it in a couple houses I've worked on, where it's like on a doily or crochet or whatever you'd call it, and it basically it goes like, I was walking along the beach one night alongside the Lord, and everything was going good, and we were walking, and then things started going really bad for me, and I looked down and I saw the footsteps disappear, and I got real resentful, and I didn't understand why, and I was just really upset about it all. And I looked at God and I asked him why, and God said to me, my child, those steps that you saw that disappeared were not mine, they were yours. For during that time, I was the one who carried you through it. Pretty cool story as a Catholic. When I was like a little kid and I'd see it, I'm just like, oh, that's cringe, whatever, right? But that's kind of how I felt during those periods. But it hit me so hard in September, and it was the weirdest thing. Two things happened at once. I do this, I've talked about this and shown it on the channel. I do construction as my main job, right? And I moved over where I'm at in 2023. At the beginning of the year, started really going hard on construction with a guy. Just me and him, really going hard with it. Then I started like really wanting to go off and take advantage of some things I have at my disposal. By the grace of God, this shop that's my grandpa's, cleaned it up, made videos about that, and built this like business where I could make cool carpentry products and art and sell it and whatnot. And it felt like something that was really meaningful. So I took a year off and did that and kept these videos up during that time. And then at the end of that was when I lost some discipline, and I just went off into reading and studying and procrastinating through study all day, and went crazy. Found Catholicism, all of that. Was gifted Catholicism, that's a better way to say it. And then went back to work in February of 2025. Lasted a little while, went back to the shop. And in September, these two things happened. I started really struggling spiritually, as well as I started getting big jobs, big construction jobs that were like really good, like career-wise, and I was just like, man, what is going on? And during that period, to be completely honest with whoever's watching this, stopped working out, stopped really praying fervently. There were periods where there'd be a period for like a week where I would start praying all three all three full rosaries all throughout one day, and then I'll just drop it again. stopped studying certain things, started playing games here or there, started drinking again, started doing all sorts of weird habits that it was almost like I had surrendered my will to just sin. It was really weird and hard to deal with. And then I don't know what you want to call it, the Christmas spirit or the Advent time or the implication of the new year coming up. But I just started, something just like sucked me out of all of that confusion, this haze that I was in, being successful, but then also kind of just like not knowing how to deal with this. And I just started getting, not visions, I don't want to say visions like I'm a mystic or anything like that, but I just started, all these goals started flooding back to me. Because I'd kind of surrendered my goals. It sounds bad, but whenever I decided or saw the truth of Catholicism and was like, okay, unquestionable, this is what I'm going with, right? I had kind of surrendered the thought of any of these like artistic ambitions, any of these things, and I adopted that like, it's a good thing, but this servant mentality of like, okay, I gotta serve. That's like the main important thing. How do I serve? And I started having some goals like, oh, I can like study my way into turning this channel into an apostolate or something like that and preach and do all of this. And then I was like, well, that's like, there's people already doing that so much better than I would be able to in terms of like a really formatted, structured way. It's not really like my strong suit. My strong suit is kind of free, just going with the flow of this, making references, making jokes, whatever, and trying to make it relatable. So that's kind of where I'm at now with this. I have this drive and these ideas to do certain things, and I just haven't completely decided on what I want to go or what direction with that I want to go. I definitely want to keep the gospel message within all of my content I want to make. I've kind of expanded some of my perspectives within Catholicism. I haven't abandoned any dogma by any means, but I'm kind of seeing some outside areas that don't go against the church, but they're just kind of, you could use the word esoteric, but not esoteric in the sense of like divination, more in the sense of taking orthodox ideas, not their dogmas that go against Catholicism, but some of the perspectives of their apologists and some of these other people, and kind of seeing the blending points, the archetypical points that they say, that they tell. All of these things have been incredibly fascinating recently to me, right? Where I haven't fully settled on a certain mission statement, if you will, or how I want to go about it. I've kind of thought about bringing back character elements. If you watch my videos, there's kind of like this tripartite nature to them, okay? Where in the beginning of making them, I had this like character where I called myself Don K, and I was just like, I kind of took on this like preacher man, self-hustle bro, in your face, just kind of really dominant. It's kind of like a masculine archetype I adopted. And then I kind of moved into this artsy domain where I was like this kind of quasi, just like, I always made this referential statement of like feeling like a faggy artist, not in the sense that you want to be sinful and be gay, but in the sense that I was just kind of like struggling with that dichotomy between those two feelings within me of that. How do you baptize David Goggins into a David Bowie format? Like, it's just like doesn't make sense. It's like a square peg in a round hole. And I had those two characters, right? And then I transitioned more into a philosophical and theological focus for a little while on the channel. And that's where a lot of my interest still lies. But I do see a point where all of these worlds can mesh. Not so much the self-improvement, because that's an ideology in its own, that accepting and preaching some of those things is just antithetical to the Catholic faith, to Christianity and the gospel message in general. A lot of it is nihilistic. It's lots of existentialism, lots of coping with stoicism with it, but you still don't think there's any meaning. All of that has completely left my psyche, if you will. But yeah, I just thought I'd come back on here, make this little video to those small few that do watch this. And I haven't decided a schedule, if I'm going to do live streams. That takes a large time commitment or whatnot. I'm still going to keep this approach where I don't really care how many people see this stuff. Like I was saying in the beginning of making this, I had that perspective of like trying to gain financial gain out of this, right? And all of that is lost within me. I still think it would like be cool to have something that I could sink the money from it back into, but most of those goals don't even like register much anymore. It's just a fun medium to express myself. It's easier than just like sitting down behind a keyboard or a pen and paper and writing essays. The ideas kind of come different through speech and rhetoric. I like practicing the art of rhetoric and all of that, but the way your brain processes ideas and is able to put them down on paper is far different than talking in a one-way conversation. It's more interesting to me, at least at this point in time. So, yeah, maybe a video a week coming up, maybe a few live streams, maybe, who knows. I've got to fix some schedule things because I've got a few jobs coming up this month, this next week. I took a little time off for Christmas and the family and whatnot. But, yeah, peace out, boys. Christ is King. Y'all have a good one.